possible.
What's your timing?
No idea. I'm leaving them straight. Let's go 6, 7, 8, but I suspect it might go over. Because this is a preparation for a workshop that I'm doing in February. So it's more of a workshop format than a speech format, so bear with me. So I wonder, was your New Year's resolution to have better work-life balance? If so, have you already given up on it, like many people have given up on their New Year's resolution? If you have, don't worry, it's not your fault. There's a reason, and that's because you can't have work-life balance. It's a myth. There are actually 3 myths, all rolled into one. I'm going to help you think about work-life balance in a different way. Because what is it, when you think work-life balance, that you're actually wanting? Chances are, it's to feel less stressed or more able to do things when life throws you a curveball. For that, you need to understand the signals that your body's been sending you for a while, and you've probably not understood it. So my job as a body mind coach is to be like an interpreter. And also think of it as a sat-nav. I'm going to help you get from where you are now to where you want to be. So, let's go into the settings buttons, and we're going to break it down. Work-life balance. When you think of work, what's happening in your body? How do you move when you're in work mode? How do you feel? How do you do work? That's what we call your embodiment at work. Now think of life. That other bit that you're thinking of, work, life. How do you do life? What kinds of thoughts do you have about life? How do you move when you're in your life bit? That's your embodiment of life. So what's the difference between your embodiment in work and your embodiment in life? And what happens if you pause? Do you ever pause? Do you feel uncomfortable when you pause? And maybe that's why you don't, so you just rush from work to life, to work to life. But can you switch from one to the other without pausing? And what might help you to get more balance between the two? Well, for that we need to look at the setting of balance. What do you mean by balance? Are you thinking of a scale, and when it's balanced, it's exactly the same both sides? And when it's balanced, it's still. So can you have that in life? Because life is just constant change. So that's myth number 1, that you could even have a balance, because if it is balanced, that's it. Everything is still, it's stopped, it's static. You can't ever change it. Is that what you're wanting when you've got work-life balance? That it's there, it's never going to change? No, I reckon even if you do life, you're thinking that at some point you're going to retire. So you can't have it static. Myth number 2. What even makes you think that work and life are separate? That you can balance work and life as two individual things, rather than work being part of life and life being part of work? Is your embodiment any different in work and in life? Chances are it probably is, unless you're doing something that you love, in which case it might not be that different. Or you might prefer your embodiment in work than in the rest of your life. So, what happens if you start thinking, instead of work-life balance, you use the word harmony? Work-life harmony. Does that make it seem like it's more achievable? And maybe that's what you've already set in motion, if that was your New Year's resolution. Or when you think work-life harmony, do you still feel that it's stressful and overwhelmed and tired? In that case, maybe you need to think of what resources you might need to help you get to the state that you can consider is what you're really wanting in your life, instead of simply firefighting. Myth number 3. There's not just work-life balance. I'll share with you in a moment that there are 7 areas to consider to help you feel resourced enough to deal with whatever life throws at you. So, let's look at the destination settings. What makes a perfect day? And what are the different elements that you would like in that day? I had a moment when I was on a camp, and I thought, wow, this was a perfect day. And I thought, oh, make a note of that. What were the elements? For me, I had the chance for a great morning routine. I was able to get up when I heard the birds, because I was camping, so that was easy. Have a shower, go to my yoga class, have my breakfast, do some movement practice. I learnt something. I shared my knowledge in a workshop. Then I had fun singing. I even did some hula hoop for the first time. I was with some people that were friendly and fun. I was able to wind down. I wasn't clock watching. So I made a note of all of those things, and I thought, how can I include those things into my life? So as I said, there are 7 areas to consider. The first is physical balance. Think of it as 7 cups filled with water. And you don't want it completely empty, because then you wouldn't have the resources you need. You don't want it so full that it spills over. So you've got this tray with these 7 cups, and you're walking around through life. How much of these, how much water do you need in each of these cups for it to be able to function well for you? So physical might be relating to your health. It might be how much movement you need, but also how much physical rest you need, how much sleep you need. What could be easier if maybe you're aching because you have exercised? It's not that you don't do the thing, but maybe you put less effort into it. And all of these you need the physical activity, but it has to balance with the rest. So you can have too much of it, you can also have too little of it. And what you do to counteract that is going to be different. In terms of mental balance or mental fatigue, it can be about overthinking, having to plan and organise things. For me, it's things like working on my website. For some, it might be accounts. It's anything that's quite structured. It could be something like editing. That's mental activity. To counteract that, do something that's really creative. Emotional balance comes from what happens in your relationships. It could be grief. You can't suppress the feelings, because if you suppress the ones that we call negative, then you're suppressing the positive as well. That's the signal from your body. It's a message, it's telling you some information. So just be kind to those messages from your body when you're feeling those emotions. Social can be too many people. Think of COVID, when there was not enough connection with people. The cup was empty. And at times in life we want more social connection, and at other times we need less. Sensory could be too much noise, bright lights. Physical contact, especially in form of abuse, or as COVID, not enough hugs. So maybe you want to seek the quiet of a church, a library, or a museum, or going in a dark room, even in the day. Reducing anxiety, and what I teach is the self-care hug, if there's nobody else to hug you. There's spiritual balance, and that might be feeling that you always have to be good, that you've got to follow the spiritual path. There's what they call compassion fatigue, when you're getting lots of requests from charities to help and you're not in a position, and you start to feel guilty, although it's an emotion. It also links to how we're meant to feel from our values that we've been taught as children. That's not necessarily what's right for us. And the seventh is creative. If you're having to redesign a website rather than have to input information, then you can adjust a timetable so that you're only doing it in clumps. If you're problem solving all the time, having to reorganise children and appointments, you're having to be creative with your timetable. That can be creative fatigue. And to resolve that, you might just have to stick to set timetables and be clearer with your boundaries. Remember, work-life harmony isn't a fixed state, but an ongoing dance, a dynamic adjustment of these 7 cups. By turning to your body to understand the different levels that you need, you can find your unique rhythm and create a life that feels truly in harmony.